to the Wall, episode number 42. I'm Kenny Matthews and my sidekick, my buddy over there, Billy Martin Jr. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good and glad to be on the Jackie Robinson edition of Balls to the Wall.
I like that. And we do appreciate you guys listening to us. If you could subscribe to us on Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, and Anchor, just hit the like button there and then put a comment in there. That would greatly help us. And any suggestions on how to improve this weekly podcast that we bring to you, we would more than welcome that. Billy, let me tell you something. We live in the Metroplex, DFW area, and guess what? We had a couple of bombs hit here in the Texas Ranger organization. We'll go with the one that happened on Monday is the Chris Woodward firing after 4 years. He has a combined record of 212 and 288. Billy, it comes about a 42% winning percentage. You and I, we kind of talked a little bit off camera a little bit. Was this warranted for Chris Woodward to have his butt kicked out of Arlington this past week?
I'm just shocked that anybody expected anything better than this. I mean, you and I certainly didn't. We were enthusiastic about the big signings, going out and getting one of the best middle infields in all of baseball, and but
absolutely
got to have guys that can pitch and get people out. And so I don't, show me anywhere where they were predicted to come anywhere higher than fourth or third in the division. I mean, nobody thought that.
I think they were picked third just because Oakland mailed it in before the season even started by getting rid of all their best players, and they continue to keep doing that. That's another story.
Yeah, right before they raised ticket prices.
But I mean, Billy, I keep seeing this national pun that keeps saying, well, the Rangers were expected to compete for playoff spot after that. I don't know why this national media is jumping on that, because I think the local media was grounded enough to know this is still not a playoff team. Do we expect them to be better than they were last year? Sure, but they were horrific last year. So, I mean, better is what? Maybe winning 45% of your games, maybe getting to 500? That shows progress. And why do you tear down the team for 3 years that Chris Woodward was here? And then when you make these moves in the offseason, then you get rid of them. I mean, it seemed like if you're going to bring all that money, why don't you just bring in a new manager and a new GM at that time? Make it a clean slate. Yeah, I don't get it.
Absolutely. Well, and look at this. You think anybody could have possibly planned for Martin Perez to go out there and do what he's doing here? So add that to the same thing, and it's like, what's the deal? Normally a situation like this, they pick the manager as a scapegoat to buy more time for the general manager, team president, what have you. Mm-hmm. And then to see all of a sudden now John Daniels later makes me really wonder what's going on, because I thought that's what it was, Kenny. I really did. I thought, okay, they're just trying to buy more time. And I even thought that was kind of early. I'd have waited till next year to do that as we're starting to figure out the young arms.
Right.
And no, they've got something going on.
And I think you made a great point off camera here before. I mean, the Rangers kind of got hurt with COVID, with the new stadium opening and all of that coming in at the time, and you couldn't play games, fans being at the game and all that other stuff. We knew this was going to be a multi-year rebuild. I mean, because we had zero in the minors to Cersei, and we knew that you couldn't buy. You knew the new ownership was not going to come in here and just spend, $5 billion to get better. So when did the patience wane where it broke the camel's back? What was it that happened that made the expectations of steady getting better to expectations of postseason play. I mean, somewhere the dynamic got really twisted in there, or accelerated, maybe is a better word.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their last few drafts, the light or the rocker, the young arms they were acquiring.
Third base,
like a Glenn Otto starting to turn into a guy that looks like somebody that you want to give the ball to every fifth day.
The Morgan Engelhart.
But yeah, and so I kind of like their plan. I mean, I thought Semien was a little older maybe than the total model, but
I thought he may have gotten an extra year or two that I might not have given on the contract. If it's a 5-year deal, I'll feel a lot better than it being a 7-year deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's splitting hairs a little bit, because I know that's the price of business now. I mean, I understand it's longevity too. And I understand. And let me ask you this is another thing. If this team was going to be playoff bound, this team desperately needed a power bat in the middle of that, in that lineup. I mean, you have Bellinger and Semien, but that's really, I mean, no offense to Nathaniel Lowe. He could probably play on a playoff team, batting 7th, 8th, or 9th. He doesn't need to be that high in the lineup with that much responsibility. He's not that kind of player. But I just, you can pitch around Semien and Bellinger a lot, in some cases. So, the guys that you wanted to count on, they're a little less effective because of that.
Sure. And, another guy, did they really think Jonah Heim was going to perform the way he's performing now? I mean, maybe that's because Chris Woodward doing such a good job. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we're obviously not in the dugout or clubhouse, but God, it didn't seem fair to me at all. And, obviously I'm not in the know. I don't have anybody on that team that I get inside info from, but yeah, I did not think it was fair.
No, and I didn't. I mean, if anything, you could have, I tell you the truth, Billy, all things fair, being fair or not, Monday's press conference should have been John Daniels being put out, not Chris Woodward to me. John Daniels, his body of work the last 6-7 years is in. Look at it. I mean, it talks to you, I mean, the minors were in a mess for a number of years. Then we made some explicit trades of some minor guys, at times where he went, why? I thought you were building up the farm. Now you're going to go get this for this bit player or somebody that's going to make yourself marginally better. I mean, we haven't had a winning season since 2016 here. So I think the Ranger fan had been pretty patient, to tell you the truth, during this little deal here. I don't think there was a big upheaval around here, or people were just really pissed off at the Rangers. I mean, I didn't get that.
I didn't either. And I wonder now, who was behind the Joey Gallo trade? Was that Chris Young? Was that John Daniels? Was that a combination? I mean, obviously that's a great trade. I mean, the fourth guy in that trade just got moved up to Double-A, Auburn. He's doing great. I was at the other 3 guys are starting on a regular basis.
Yeah. I mean, this just happened 12 and a half months ago, Billy. I mean, you got instant return on that one. So, I'm not sure. I'm flabbergasted a little bit, because it caught me. It floored me on the Woodward, but it really floored me that you do it 48 hours, you get rid of the GM too. So wonder what changed in those 48 hours that you didn't say both were gone, and why are you going to be a national news item twice in 48 hours? We're doing this. You generally like to just try to get that bad news out of your mouth, get it out 24 hours, hope there's a new newspaper to come. So.
No, I think you touched on it before we got on the air when you said a lot of people have been questioning, if you're firing Woodward, how is John Daniels' job safe? And it just, I like John, and I think John had it put together right when he was working with Nolan, and
that crosswords. Yeah.
And he'd really put together a great organization when he had guys like Preller and Thad Levine and this whole group and a bunch of old smart, sage scouts that they all really worked together well. And, and the sad part was there was a guy that broke the whole bond up between Nolan and John Daniels. And his name's Tim Purpura. And he's now the commissioner of the AA Texas League. And Tim Purpura was probably the worst general manager in baseball history. Destroyed the Houston Astros. He stabbed Jerry Hunsaker in the back and took over the GM job when the Astros had Biggio, Bagwell, Berkman, and were one of the best franchises in the game.
Sure.
And he destroyed it. I mean, literally the first trade he made, he traded Ben Zobrist and two pretty good arms to the Rays, where Jerry Hunsaker went, and got back Aubrey Huff for half a season. Yeah, who was terrible. And he destroyed that franchise. Of course, Hunsaker turned Tampa into what they are now. And now he's with that team called the Dodgers, and they're okay. But the funny part was, or the ironic part, or the sad part, or however you want to look at it, was when Tim Purpura was the Astros farm director, meaning he was in charge of their minor league operations. He was my favorite. He was the best. I mean, he got back to you the quickest. He was always able to give you a conversation. And as an agent, I loved the guy back then. And that's who Nolan Ryan remembered, because Nolan owned two of their franchises. Corpus and Round Rock were both Astros, minor league franchises then, and Purpura was in charge of it. So when JD and Nolan had their tiff, when JD finally got permission to be a big boy GM and not have to go in Nolan's office to get his permission every time he signed somebody, he continued to do it out of respect. He no longer had to listen, but he did it out of respect. And they were still clicking and working really well. But then Nolan hired Tim Purpura. And I think that made JD angry, because I'm reading the tea leaves here. I don't know this for sure, but I think it made JD angry because he had just stabbed his former GM in the back. And I think that's what caused their fight. I think John Daniels said, hey, man, I've been coming in here to get your feedback on everything when I didn't have to.
Sure.
Why are you hiring this guy without talking to me about it?
Makes sense.
And I think that's where they blew up and everything, the wheels fell off, and we lost the great Nolan Ryan. And losing that sage baseball voice has cost the Rangers quite a bit.
Haven't been the same since.
No, sir. And it's sad because I could see how it happened. Like I say, I used to love Tim Purpura. And then he turned into a GM, and he was a completely different guy, Kenny. He lied to me about something and had a different attitude when I saw him. And all of a sudden, he was cool now. And look out, I'm somebody different. And, that tells you a lot about a person's character when they change significantly like that.
Money and ego. Won't be the first, won't be the last.
No, it will not.
Speaking of Mr. Preller, He had an eventful last week, didn't he, out there in San Diego? The GM, AJ Preller, out there as his face of the franchise of the San Diego Padres, Fernando Tatis Jr., came down with an 80-game suspension with an illegal drug. Was it close to ball? I believe it's what it was called. I believe that's what it was.
Yeah, and I haven't done any research on what that drug is. You know,
apparently it clears ringworm.
And for those of y'all listening, the reason we're laughing about this is because if it really clears ringworm, and it may, but it may do other things too, you're supposed to go to your trainer. Everybody in the game knows this. In baseball, you don't take anything unless your trainer looks at the ingredients and says, this will be fine, or no, don't take this. So I'm guessing Fernando didn't do this. And even if he did this to heal up quicker, his injury came from something that was a breach of contract.
We talked about
he
that.
Rode a motorcycle, and if you clearly read any of these guys' contracts, they're not allowed to ride motorcycles. They're not allowed to go snow skiing. They're not allowed to go spelunking, which is cave dwelling. I mean, there are lots of rules on there. And how lucky is Fernando that the Padres didn't say, you know what, we're gonna tear up the $400 million contract and go a different direction when he did that. But now this, dude.
This is what you reward their faith in you. This time last year, signing the big contract. Number one, they didn't have to. Had many years that they could have, had him well undervalued. Let's just say that, money wise. Then he claims that he couldn't get in touch with the Padres, but due to the lockout, players weren't supposed to get in touch with the organization during that time. So that's why he didn't let them know that he had this off-roading incident. But according to Dr. Fernando Tatis Sr., he took it for ringworm. So instead of going to your trainer that you see multiple times a day, you went to somebody else and said, I can take this. You know what, Billy? I just want one time somebody to say, I effed up. I screwed up, knowingly, willingly took this, tried to slide by the system. My bad. Please forgive me. It won't happen again. Coming up with these lame excuses or reasons makes it, you're doubling down on the stupid act to me. And I just don't know why. I mean, you pay all this money to publicists and all these people to write these things up for you. Don't they run it by people first before they say that? And why is his dad going on radio telling people this? His dad doesn't need to be involved at all on this. This is all on his son to explain what happened. Why are we hearing this cockamamie story from him? Don't get it.
I'm going to guess it was the drug his father did the day he hit 2 grand slams in the same inning off the same pitcher.
That record will never be broken. I'm going to go on record.
I'm right there with you.
Record will never be broken. Never, ever, ever. But I do remember seeing that. It's so great. But now, let me ask you this. I briefly will talk this, but what do the Padres do to kind of now, this is the first, let's say Tatis comes back and he has a great career that maybe he's Hall of Fame worthy in 15 years from now. Will he be the first person to get into the Hall of Fame? They failed the drug test like this that went. I mean, Big Papi, I know that there's some people that said that maybe he didn't fail the test or whatever. We know Fernando Tatis failed this test. I mean, there's no question about it. There's no open eyes. We know. Would he be the first one to test this? I don't know.
No. I don't think so. I think we'll see more. I mean, Big Papi did. Look, Fernando Tatis.
It's just a question. I don't know.
Even think.
I mean, I know we forgive and forget in this society a lot. I know there's younger sports writers are a lot more forgiving on the, enhancing drugs, than the older guys are. I get that part of it too. But if that is the case, if Tatis was to get in, you can make an argument that Bonds can get in, Clemens can get in, and A-Rod can get in too then.
Oh,
if
absolutely.
he does get in. So that's what I was wondering. Do you open up that Pandora's box, for that to happen? I don't know. I mean,
I think Bonds and Clemens should be in.
Yeah.
I mean,
Almero.
If Big Papi's in, they should be in. That's just all there is to it. Come on, they're two of the top 5 maybe of their position in history.
Well, we did our list. Clemens is the top 20 player. A top 10, and we had him as a top 20 player to ever suit up. Right. So I mean, there's no. He's not in the Hall of Fame of good. He's in the Hall of Fame of great. So I mean, I just don't know. It'll be really interesting. I know it's way down the line, but I was just thinking about that. I go, if this guy is where we project him to be. Now, I'm gonna tell you this, Billy. One thing about Tatis, that guy will miss some games on you in a season. It's 3 years in a row now that he's missed significant time due to injury and now obviously suspension here. And he's going to miss at least 40 games next year, depending on how far the Padres go in the playoffs. So, I mean, you're talking about another, a quarter of the season next year that he can't play for the Padres. So, I mean, yeah, it's time to mature. It's time for him to, make some right decisions in life. And I guess when you give somebody $400 million at age 22, you're going to get a little, maybe some immature decisions made. Sure, I get that.
Yeah, but a kid that grew up, the son of that grew up in the game, for me, that's the kid who should know better.
Absolutely.
And that's where it makes me scratch my head a little bit. And
so you're saying that so Aaron Boone took that approach, but Brett Boone didn't?
Yeah.
I know just a few people got that joke, but but yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, look, you hate to lose a player like that. I know the Padres had a lot of steam this time last week with Soto. He was on rehab, was about to come back. He was going to be, probably in Washington, D.C. last weekend. And all they're doing is fielding questions about this suspension. And then you go on a losing streak afterwards. It doesn't, you think that's a little distraction? Just a little bit? Unreal. The other news that came out of the NL West was Walker Buehler going down with Tommy John surgery. I remember you and we talked at the beginning of the season about Urias, his mile per hour was down a little bit. We had question marks about Clayton Kershaw, if he was going to make it through the year or not. And Walker, we have to remember, he was kind of bubbling back from an injury too at the end of last year too, coming down in here. So, this vaunted Dodger rotation just this time last year to what it is now is merely a shell of what it was, what they got on there. And that makes the reason I'm bringing that up a little bit is it makes it strange to me that they did not try to go after a pitcher after trading deadline this year. I really thought that if there's any organization that could get rid of minor league players and it wouldn't kill your depth in your organization, is the Dodgers. And I just didn't. That was a head scratcher to me.
Well, okay, and you don't even have to just go into your minor leagues. You have great position players that are literally only playing 4 games a week in guys like Lux and Bellinger and Taylor's. I mean, they've got some great players that aren't even playing. That would be an absolute everyday player anywhere else.
I mean, they're taking a page out of your dad's manager, Casey Stengel. They're platooning basically, righty lefties with very good, now we'll get a little bit about Mr. Bellinger, but I mean, but still it's just it. I was just stunned that they didn't do it then because we knew that Buehler was still hurt at that time, so you couldn't count on him. Clayton was already out of your rotation. Now I know they're thinking about Dustin May, and believe me, Dustin May's got a great arm. He hadn't pitched in over a year on the big league level yet, so you can't. I did see Dave Roberts kind of temper that enthusiasm, saying Dustin May is not replacing Walker Buehler because there's only about 4 or 5 pitchers that can replace Walker Buehler, So it's not, that we got to, temper it down a little bit. But I just thought they whiffed big time at the trading deadline because it was a need if Walker Buehler even came back anyway to get another starting pitcher.
Funny part is though, you never know what the other side of that is. I mean, watching a game, I was at a Ranger game Monday night, the Ranger A's game, and I'm watching Oakland's catcher, Sean Murphy. He's take a beating back there, right? And this is a great player. He's an all-star caliber catcher. And here they make the Olson trade and get back Shea Langoliers.
Yes.
Former Baylor Bear.
Keller Indian in our backyard.
Right. And just an absolute stud. And they did that trade. So I remember thinking, oh, well, they're obviously dealing their Murphy. And no, he's still there. But we don't know what lousy offers they got, what was really going on. Just like the Dodgers, they may have tried to pull the trigger on 25 different trades that they just fell short on. And
maybe people knowing that the Dodgers are so rich in their farm system, maybe they held them out for a ransom notice, basically, said, hey, it's, that might have been the reason why. I just generally know that it seems like 9 out of 10 times the Dodgers want something, they get something. It's not very rare that they don't. And, maybe it puts more credence into this, Billy, is that I remember back in early June when people said, why aren't we making trades now for players so you can have them for half the season or whatever it is? Maybe that puts credence and more pressure now for GMs to say, man, I can't wait to the end and get left at the altar, with nothing. It's maybe that puts a little bit, maybe June 1st is a little quick to do that because, and then, it's just a third of the season been gone, but you know what I mean? Maybe it's July 1st you do it, and something of that nature. Because I think Frankie Montas was available in June. He sure as heck was available in July. And we know he was available up until trade deadline, because still we knew the Reds were not going to sign him. They were going to trade him. So, when you let others bids get in there, maybe that accelerates the process. I'm not sure. But, I know one thing. I'm sure the Dodgers have got to be really killing themselves now thinking, dang it, we didn't do this. We had another pitcher and May coming in. We could have maybe offset this a little bit. Now, that lineup is a Hall of Fame lineup, so they may be able to hit enough to get to the World Series. I think if they play the Astros this time around, the Astros starting pitching, though, they wouldn't beat them. I think the Astros from 1 to 6 now in their starting lineup, in their starting pitchers, is damn good now that McCullers is back. I just don't see that, but that's another story for another day. But I know that they got to be killing themselves a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they are. But I'll tell you, I was talking about earlier, Jerry Hunsaker, I believe in that guy. I've watched him take 3 organizations to the top, and all with very different styles. That the Astros were kind of a middle grade team, right? They're not the giant market, big money spenders,
Right.
but they definitely weren't low end, right? The Dodgers, the Yankees, but
Yeah.
but
And they got
wow,
the bump
what a team he had there.
and they got the bump with the new stadium in Minute Maid at the time.
Yep.
That bumped them up, probably to around 10 or 9 or 11, somewhere in that range, I would think. Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then so he goes from the mid-range team to the bottom range with Tampa, right?
Yeah.
Finds a way to win budget style, and then goes to the Dodgers. And what he's done there's been phenomenal. It always makes me scratch my head and wonder what would have happened had Billy Beane took the job in Boston. I mean, I think he likes being on the shoestring budget. I think there's a part of him that sees that as more challenging and more fun for him. But, Beantown would have been spelled differently had he gone to Boston and won that World Series. But I could see why you wouldn't want that also. So it's neat. And that's my props to Jerry Hunsaker because, wow, Dodgers, like you said, that's a Hall of Fame lineup.
Yep. Well, I would say it's definitely a Hall of Fame lineup with no holes, but that does bring me to the benching of Cody Bellinger. Here is the 2017 Rookie of the Year, won the MVP 2 years later. Looked like he was going to be the face of the Dodgers going forward at that time. Since then, man, he can't hit himself out of a paper sack, it seems like, with the contact issues there. To me, it looks like he may need a change of scenery to me because it's been a prolonged slump, there in La La Land. And the one thing that you do know in the flash and dash of playing in Dodger Stadium, you don't hit, you're jilling out on the team much longer, and I don't know. I think, Billy, you always say this, it's definitely here. That guy, 27 years old or whatever may be the case, he didn't lose it physically. It's squarely between his ears, and I think he just needs new surrounding because I think the Bellinger experiment now is over in LA.
Absolutely. That would have been kind of funny when I heard the Yankees traded Joey Gallo. That was the first thing I thought. Gallo for Bellinger.
Makes sense.
Both of these guys are underproducing what they should be. They're both pretty good defenders. Mm-hmm. Bellinger's a little faster. Gallo's got a little better arm.
Both got a little swing and miss.
Right. I mean,
both left-handed.
Right. Both have been superstar status and dog crap status. So,
yeah. And Bellinger in Yankee Stadium with that short right field porch. And now that it seems that the Aaron Hicks experiment in New York is over, you could have maybe slid him in there. You could have, maybe. That's not far-fetched at all.
No, the Yankees did just call up a kid.
Yes.
Who I think is pretty good in Esteban Florial.
Yeah.
They kind of rushed him up the first time, and it'll be interesting to see how he does if he gets any kind of significant opportunity, but I like him.
Yeah, batted about 284, about 20 bombs, 32 stolen bases, plus outfielder in the field. Yeah. And the Yankees obviously need, as what Garrett Cole said last night, we need a jolt. They've been in a funk now ever since the All-Star break. The bullpens and rambles, the lineup again is swinging and miss. If they're not, let's not just blame Joey Gallo for that lineup. Donaldson's swinging and missing. Aaron Hicks is swinging and missing. They're not hitting with run. Gleyber Torres, he can't hit right-handers at all. He's almost to the point where you almost have to sit him against righties now. He's not hitting them at all. I think kind of Falefa gets a bad rap to me in a little bit. He batting 270. I know he only has one home run, but he doesn't strike out. And give me a plus fielder at shortstop that's batting 270 and that doesn't clog up the base paths. any day of the week. I don't have a problem with that because they have enough swing and miss guys. You know, they have enough
here. Right.
DJ LeMahieu was hurt. That's a team that's reeling right now, and I don't know how they're going to get that much better going down the stretch. I mean, I know they'll get Stanton back. Again, that's a hot and cold bat in your lineup. Judge is in a funk right now. Frankie Montas has not looked good so far. It's just they're a mess. They're a mess, and they're getting my dandruff up. Yes, I have a little dandruff up here. Yes.
Yeah. You know what? I also think it's easy for a team when you've got that big of a lead in your division.
Sure.
For the wheels to fall off to some degree, like it has, and all of a sudden, as they get down the stretch, they get in the postseason, all of a sudden things will start to click again. Yankees fans are obviously notorious for freaking out about things like that. I mean,
well, I will say this though. If this Yankee team win a Game 7 at Minute Maid Park? To me, no. I think Verlander shuts them out, goes 8 innings, 1 run, and 14 Ks. And Garrett Cole gives up 3.5 runs and 6. It's just, I don't think that they're equipped to beat the Astros. And to me, that should be their measuring stick for the Yankees, because making the playoffs, that should be a birthright for them. Winning the first round of the playoffs should be a birthright to them with their way their payroll is. It's getting to the World Series. It's winning the World Series. And to me, they're definitely, if you line up the Stros and the Yankees against each other, man, I'm betting the house on the Stros. There's no question against the Yankees. I don't even think they're close, to tell you the truth.
I agree on one hand, but because of what we're calling the Joey Gallo factor with the Yankees, because that is that feast or famine lineup, that it could all just blow up for them in the postseason. And
look at Stanton last year. What, he hit 5 home runs against, and in the Cleveland series last year, he basically carried them. I mean, it happens. I know, well, my old mind tells me starting pitching always locks down the hitting. But now when we go to postseason, Billy, we've minimized starting pitching. So maybe I am overreacting. They'll be in the bullpen in the 5th inning, regardless if he's got a perfect game or not, at that point in time. So, I mean, heaven forbid we go through that lineup the 3rd time. No, not with a starting pitcher. No. So I take everything back. We're good. Because I don't like the Astros bullpen. Now, they did get some help. They got a little help at the trading deadline, but I'm not sold on the Astros bullpen. So if Dusty Baker's going to play, 4 innings starters, starters only going 4 innings or 4 2/3, Yankees got a shot. They can run into a few balls. No question.
This could be Dusty's year.
Yeah.
Get that ever elusive World Series championship. And
boy, to my demise to see the Stros hoist that trophy again. But man, somewhere in my heart, I will be crying on the inside for Dusty, because that's a good dude to me. Yeah, that's a good dude. He'll be like what Ron Washington was last year for the Braves to me. A lifelong guy that's never won it all, and hip, cool. I mean, these guys gone through 5 generations of baseball, 6 generations, and they're still got it. Swag, it's just, I love that. I really
Dusty's taken 5 teams to the postseason. Only my father and Tony La Russa have taken 4 teams to the postseason, right? Yep. So,
over 1,000 wins.
That in itself, for me, puts Dusty in the Hall of Fame. And whether he wins one or not, and if he does, it's a lock.
Billy, that's a great question, because how many skippers are in the Hall of Fame that have not won it?
I don't think any.
That's what I was thinking. I don't think there's any skippers in the Hall, because there's not that many in the first place. No,
Right.
There's not that many, but I don't think anybody that's in the Hall of Fame right now has not won it.
Nope. And I think Dusty would probably get that nod. I mean, you got to look at other things. I mean, not only was he a great player, but he invented the high five. So
Sure did.
absolutely.
Hey, he was on deck for Hank Aaron's historic home run. I mean,
Yes,
this guy's lived a great charmed life. Then he lived in Atlanta. He's lived in, San Francisco. He's lived in LA. I mean, now he's lived in Houston the last few years. So I won't hold that against him. But hey, dude, we do appreciate you guys listening to us on Balls to the Wall here. If you could subscribe to us on Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, just hit the like button down there and put a comment down there. We would greatly appreciate it. That would help us out deeply. There was two little side notes about baseball that I wanted to say. I hope everybody's seen The Captain on ESPN Plus. That was excellent, done by Derek Jeter. I know you and I also talked about Facing Nolan. That's on net. You can see that on Netflix now. That also was excellent. And then I want to know, for anybody you guys listen to podcasts, please go listen to the Lyman Bostock podcast that Tom Rinaldi did. It's eight of them, and they're about 26 minutes apiece. It is wonderful. If people have never heard about the Lyman Bostock story, he's the only player to be ever killed during the season in 1977. He was back at home in his Gary, Indiana, was shot with a shotgun, and he was not the target. The ex-wife was the target at the time. Now, the assailant, Leonard Harris, who did kill him, he served just a little over a year in a mental hospital where he was let out for good. He was out for 30 years before he passed. So a lot of people say he got away with murder. He got away with murder because even the mental institution said he never was mentally insane. So it's really, really good. And I know Tom Rinaldi does these things extremely well anyway. I mean, it's done well. So if you get a chance, you could listen to him. It's on all the fronts, Spotify, all that. It's over. Just put in Lyman Bostock, who was going to be a very, very good player in his right mind. Rob Carew had kind of taken him under his wing, and he's also in that series. So it's really, really, really good. I did want to say this, is that we had the AP college football rankings that came out this past week, and what a surprise. Alabama's number one with 54 votes.
No way. Wow.
Boy, see if you heard these teams before in the top five. Ohio State, number 2. Georgia, number 3. Clemson, number 4. Notre Dame, number 5. Man, what a shocker. So
Yeah.
This time next year, can I just break this out and they'll be the same order? We talk about parity. That's always a word that they use in college football these days. I think there is a form of parity maybe in the middle ranks, absolutely. But obviously it seems like the heavyweights still year after year after year the touted ones to get there. You don't have those situations where USC is down for 8-9 years. I remember Bama was down for a few years and everybody kind of, Notre Dame went through their little stretch. But since this BCS has come out, it seems like those guys have been pretty much at the top every year. Shocking.
Yep. That's why those guys are the best. I mean, that's why they get the most money. But yeah, you're right though. You could pretty much just etch it in stone for who's going to be the guys next year. I mean, right? You can almost guarantee 3 of those 5 teams. I'll guarantee 3 of them will be in the top 10 for sure.
Yeah, and I think we said a little off camera. Kudos to Nick Saban being able to do that at this level with now with having the turnover the way you can, the way he loses NFL talent every year to the draft, either seniors or juniors. And the guy just keeps replenishing his cub of bear over there with another 5-star, another 4-star players. And not only is he winning national championships, he's doing it in the vaunted SEC, where he's only losing maybe one game a year at that, against what we all know is a dogfight every time you play an SEC team, at home or on the road. It's just, again, if he's not the GOAT, then I haven't seen the GOAT yet. Because it's hard for me to think that there's been a better coach, especially in this day and age and environment where there's so many distractions to keep those guys every year in the hunt.
Ever. I mean, because who are you gonna say if you say ever? Are you gonna throw the bear at him? I mean,
yeah. As you can arguably say that Alabama's had the best 2 coaches that ever been on the sidelines in college football, easily. Yeah, I agree with that, because Bear Bryant was the GOAT. Yeah, there's no question. But I do think Saban has surpassed that now. The ability to win one at LSU and then to win all these that he has at Alabama, I think puts him ahead, doing it at a couple different places. But I mean, gosh, Bear, what was he, coached there at Baylor for 35 years or whatever it might have been the case? I mean, it's a long time.
And people don't remember about the Bear. He was at the University of Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a basketball coach by the name of Adolph Rupp.
Yes, he did.
And they told the Bear that if you can get the football program on a par with Coach Rupp's basketball program, we'll pay you like we do him. So he goes out and promptly wins a bowl game and says, all right, pay me. And they tell him, well, they want to wait and see a little bit more of it. And he gives them this and walks away at probably the most inopportune moment a coach could walk away from the team that needs a job, right?
Yeah.
So he takes a job at lowly all boys academy, Texas A&M. And if anybody's not seen the Junction Boys,
good.
First of all, I suggest reading the book, as Jim Dent.
Yes, our buddy.
Version of the Junction Boys is absolutely the best. I did talk to him right before we did our show, by the way, and he said to say hello.
Good.
But
good guy.
What a great story of a guy that took a team of misfits and made them great. And with what he did there, landed the Bama job and turned into the GOAT.
Yep. He coached one famous coach out there at the University of Kentucky when he was at the University of Kentucky, Howard Schnellenberger.
Well, he coached a couple of coaches at Texas A&M, and Jack Party and Gene Stallings. Those guys are pretty good too. I mean, kind of interesting, that Junction Boys book. I mean, what happens is, for those of y'all who haven't seen it, he gets there and all the Aggie fans are at every practice trying to tell him how to do his job, standing on the sidelines. And he just finally said, I got to get these guys away. And they literally take off and go to a ranch where they got to take cactus off a field to get them to practice. And they did lose a guy to heat stroke that was never the same. But the rest of the guys that survived that camp, everybody was a successful person in life.
John David Crow.
And that guy went on to the NFL, right? But not many of them did as players.
If I remember correct, isn't John David Crow a Heisman Trophy winner?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But everybody was successful. Everybody that made it through that camp and that season went on and had successful lives, became successful bankers or insurance salesmen or whatever they did. They all did really well, and it was inspiring. It shows you why the Bear was the GOAT, which is a misnomer, because a bear can't really be a GOAT. But anyways, he he knew how to turn people into winners.
Yes, he did.
And if they couldn't win on the football field, they found other ways to win.
Yeah. That probably makes it even that much tougher on the onset. Who's going to be the next Alabama coach to have to come back and follow up the Bear and then follow up Saban?
No.
I'm sure the bank account is going to smile every 2 weeks when that automatic deposit goes in. But I have a feeling you're going to have a few sleepless nights, during that process, because that is wow. I mean, that's huge shoes, buddy. Some huge shoes. Well, I do want to kind of give you a thumbs up and a thumbs down, and I've got a couple of thumbs down this week. And first one is about the Calgary Flames star, the Jonathan Huberdeau. He's going to donate his brain to CTE. He came down with, the Lou Gehrig's disease at age 29. I just feel horrible about that. I mean, it's a horrible disease, but to have that when you're at the height of your career, and at age 29, Billy, I mean, wow, that really rocked me a little bit, because it made me think, man, here I am, 55 years old. I'm thinking this he's not long for being on this earth now, with that disease, and it really is a tragic story.
Oh, what do you even say to something like that? And
sad.
At least with Lou, it seemed like he got to at least have his career and
right. With Lou, I think you really didn't know what the disease really was. So yeah, I mean, we all know how bad it is now. For him, he's just like, what the heck? I can't get out of bed. I can't swing the stick. What the heck is going on? It's just horrible. I hope we do get I hope we get a cure for that disease one day. That's just something that, had some people that, known some people that passed away from it, and I heard it is absolutely brutal. So prayers to him. Also, I know it's been all over the news this week, and it's a little personal to me, as the Joachim Talib shot and killed a youth coach, Kevin, Mr. Hickman, this week. It's, Mike Hickman at a youth football game. I know both people personally. Joachim Talib, I probably have had 25, 30 conversations with him over the years. He's a younger brother of Aqib Talib, the defensive back in the NFL for a number of years. They have a place, it's called A+D1 training facility. They train for youths, from age 3 all the way up to high school. It's right down the street from my house. Again, it's another act of violence. But Billy, I'm going to go with it even on this word. It's another act of violence with black on black at a freaking youth football game, and to shoot anybody is wrong. But to do that in front of 8 and 9-year-old kids, I can't understand how upset you can be at a referee at a youth game that will make you put 6 bullets into somebody. I need an explanation. I don't get it.
I mean, if you're that angry, and come on, we've all had moments at youth sports. I've coached youth sports and football, basketball, baseball, soccer.
Absolutely.
You name it. And you get so angry at officials. I've also officiated sports. But I've wanted to shove them before.
Yeah.
I've wanted to punch one.
Yeah, I
wanted to punch one that smart alecked me, right? Where I wanted to knock him out. But even there, how could I do that in front of those kids? What kind of, is it? Trust me, it's crossed my mind once. I'm not going to say what the guy said, but who's carrying a gun out there in the first place?
That's what I want to know. What are you carrying a gun from around 8 and 9-year-old kids?
Well, you know what? Okay. He could say on that front, hey, he's there to protect those kids. if some wacko shooter in the stands pulls out a gun, he's going to return fire.
You make an excellent point there, Billy, because guess what? He wasn't the only one carrying that day on that field. I guarantee you that. He was not the only one that had a gun in his pocket on that field. You're absolutely right. And that's the travesty of it. There shouldn't have been one on that damn field, but there were multiple ones on that field that day.
But I mean, how can you care about those kids? What are you doing out there if you're shooting an official? It's just, how do you even wrap your head around that? But I mean, how do you wrap your head around the guy in Buffalo walking in the grocery store shooting little old ladies, while he's got his suit on? I mean,
Uvalde.
Our world is full of crazy people.
It is.
And
the problem is we shouldn't be shocked anymore. I mean, we're not. We're almost immune to it. It's you hear it now, and the shock factor is already off. You almost come to expect it. If you go a few months without something like this, you almost expect another shooting, or a group shooting of some type. My other question, and I want to just say this about the victim, Mike Hickman, one of the best guys ever. He volunteered so much of his time for those little kids, to coach those little kids, to treat them right, to show them how to do the right thing. I mean, he went beyond regular volunteering status on that. He wasn't getting paid for any of that. So he's actually spending his own time and money for those kids. And for those kids to see him get murdered in front of them, man, that's going to last with those kids forever. You'll never get rid of that image. You're going to be 65 and 70 years old still thinking about what you saw on a youth football field. It's just tragic. It's just tragic. And for his older brother, Aqib, he's the one that started the brawl. Here's the professional athlete, played in the NFL for 11 years, starts a brawl at a youth football game on a Saturday night. That's mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling. And now he's already on multiple charges. He's got parole charges that have been ran. He's going to go away for a long time. There's no question. I guess that's part justice. I mean, it doesn't bring back Mr. Hickman. It doesn't change that image in front of all those kids. But I hope that the fear that we had showing all this violence and showing the tapes and all that stuff, when he gets sentenced, that there's people in the media that are there to show that same fear, saying this was the price. Because I think that we need to have that. Here's the consequence after you do something publicly like this. This is what's going to happen to you later. And that same TMZ needs to be there with that in the courtroom, showing that. Maybe that makes a difference.
I hope so.
And my thumbs up for the day. If I mention the name Derwin James Jr., do you know who he is, Billy? Well, he is the highest paid NFL safety for the San Diego Chargers. And get this, he signed a contract today that's going to average $19.13 million a year. Yes. Yes. Now, I know him a little bit because he was on Hard Knocks a couple of years ago, and he got hurt during Hard Knocks, the show, and training camp, and he was out for the year. But this is a guy that's missed a complete season. The following year, he only played 5, and they're giving a safety $82.5 million to play National Football League. Billy, these professional leagues, they're not professional leagues anymore. They're the entertainment business now. That's what we're paying these guys to do it. It doesn't have anything to do about a professional. It's you and I are watching whatever vehicle it is because they're printing money off of who? Us.
Absolutely.
I looked at that today and said, I bet you 3 out of 10 people don't even know who Derwin James Jr. is. And he's the highest paid safety in the most vocal visual sport that we have in America, besides soccer. I know that's global. It's just crazy.
How many years was his deal? And how long do you think they really keep him there before they?
It would. I haven't seen what this. I have not seen what the guaranteed money part of it is. To me, that's the crucial thing that's on that. I know it's a sizable signing bonus, and I know it's maybe average. I say you get 3 years out of the 4, probably. Maybe it's out of the 5. Excuse me. Maybe it's something of that nature. But he's probably had a signing bonus of $30 million. Or something of that nature. So you can't cut him really after year 1. It kills your cap. Even if he didn't produce, it's just. I just look at this and I go, somewhere this time next year, we're going to be talking about Lamar Jackson getting an outrageous contract, Craig Herbert, an outrageous contract by this, and that guy up in Buffalo, he's going to get an outrageous contract in the NFL. When does the money stop? Recession? Maybe the Democrats are right. We don't have a recession.
Well, and maybe the money stops when you stop watching.
And you know what? Who's going to do that in October in America?
Not me.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So for all you people out there that think that that this money is going to slow down, to me, with all the streaming services with the NFL that are going to add this year, it's just going to put more money into the pockets of the whole sport, which means they have to share a percentage of that with the players, which means much higher salaries. Higher salary cap means
more money.
The Derwin James of the world gets $76.4 million.
I just wonder what the odds are that he'll really see the end of that contract, because obviously it's not guaranteed money,
Just a signing bonus.
Yeah.
Is somewhere Charlie Waters sitting around going, God, I wish I was born 35 years later.
Absolutely.
A perennial Pro Bowler for the Cowboys, Hall of Famer, one of the best safeties of the decade. He's probably thinking, just give me 1 year at 19.3 million. I'm fine, dude. Oh, man. Well, hey, Billy, I appreciate you taking the time to do this again this week, man. It's my favorite hour of the week. We do appreciate our audience. We do love to come here weekly with you guys. We love your suggestions and your tips. And if you can, just subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, or Rumble. Billy, until next week, I appreciate you, buddy. Let's have a good one.